Oh, yes.
I really had to talk about Hi-Fi Rush. They announced and released this thing in the same day. It isn't even full price, and it's the most fun I've had in a long time. It's a bit of a surprise that the developers behind Evil Within have the skills to build such a smooth brawler. But Tango Gameworks has a number of former Capcom employees and was founded by Shinji Mikami, director of God Hand. Hi-Fi Rush was directed by John Johanas, who referred to it as his dream game, and he's living it. At the time of recording this script, I haven't finished the game. I'm only 3 chapters in, I'm swooning. I had to write these opinions down. I need to communicate that this is a truly good brawler. I found there are a few major innovations that push this forward as a brawler before we even get into the rhythm-based mechanics. The rising attack is part of the foundation of 3D brawler games. Most brawlers use the same or similar inputs for accessing a rising attack, and many have the caveat that you can hold down the button to follow the target up into the air, letting you smoothly continue to deal damage while staying above a lot of the threats on the ground. Hi-Fi Rush contains a few different riser attacks, but also rewards a points multiplier for landing aerial hits. You've got a few different aerial combos that specialize in air-to-air, air-to-ground, or even air to even higher air. You can just keep popping a guy up as long as you have a meter to work with. Tougher enemies have a stun meter on them that will prevent them from being launched or knocked around too much. But this is like a good transparency element. You deplete the meter, then you can launch them just as usual. There's not a mystery about the hit stun. In a lot of other games, that's a hidden value. The second major staple of the 3D brawler is the stinger attack, a dashing stab or slash that can jump you straight into combat or chain from one downed enemy into the next guy. Devil May Cry 4 introduced a major innovation in the Devil Bringer, a part of Nero's moveset that can pull enemies to you, pull you to large enemies, or allow some grapple and counter attacks with like special interactions against certain enemies or bosses, like fling guys around and stuff like that. Pulling an enemy to you after a combo lets you just keep hammering on guys, creating really smooth gameplay. One key advantage over the stinger that you get out of the Devil Bringer is that you can close a vertical gap, bringing a grounded enemy up to you to commence an air combo, or bringing an enemy back after a launch that has sent them at an angle up and away. Bayonetta, for instance, has really limited tools to continue a combo on the same enemy after making that kind of launch, but Nero can, and in Hi-Fi Rush, so can Chai. Hi-Fi Rush gives you a grappling attack, but will always pull you to the enemy. You can be pulled into the air to attack an airborne enemy, or higher up into the air as you stack up a continuing combo against the same goon. Your combos end with a variety of timed finishers, and you can follow your long-distance launchers with this magnetic grapple to continue the combo while moving right across the battlefield. The magnetic grapple itself also gives a score multiplier, reinforcing that this is the way to play the game. A noteworthy wall to anybody who's trying to learn these 3D brawler games is the sometimes lengthy combo list. These lists are often front-loaded, and it can be difficult to learn the merits of individual combos. You're usually fishing through this list, testing things out to make note of your wide area attacks, and attacks that create states like knock up and knock down. A lot of brawler games actually lack training rooms that give you the space and time to practice combos. So you'll have to learn things on the fly, or replay Chapter 1 to test your moves against mooks. Hi-Fi Rush requires you to unlock several of your combos in the shop, but every combo finisher serves a different purpose in your arsenal. You have finishers that have big frontal blast cones, some that are wide slashes, and some that are 360 circles on the ground. There's a finisher that builds extra special meter, which is a God Hand mechanic to even have a special meter, and a finisher with a ground bouncing launch that gets you a lot of distance and also collaterally hurts enemies along the way. I love that move. The merits of these attacks are all explained in the shop with demo videos, so you can see what it looks like when it's successfully performed. And you can access a training room between chapters with controls that let you set up enemy AI. So if you want to work against a ragdoll, you can do that. Or if you want to practice parries or try to weave your combos in between enemy attacks, you can work on that too. I'm only a little ways into the game. Can I really make judgments about enemy design? Yes. I've faced a mook, a gun mook, a basic flyer. There's a bruiser with a bubble shield that you will use an assist tag, like a fighting game assist tag, to drop that shield off and let you attack them. There's a multi-attacking bruiser, a guy who shields allies, and then a tougher, fancier multi-attacker that you need to parry to kill. And then they have another version of the multi-attacking bruiser that has a frontal shield that requires you to use a different assist tag-in to deal with. And there's like a spider-walking, turret-launching guy that also is armored and requires you to use your like bruiser assist tag-in. So you're looking at the battlefield, there are specific enemies you want to take out because they're applying buffs. There are enemies that have protective layers that you need to get yourself through. You've got the stun meters to work through. There's a meaningful amount of prioritization and variables that are going through the combat. So already I'm enjoying the enemy variety, and they read much more easily than something like the homunculus from Bayonetta 3. You've got very different enemy silhouettes and poses that help you to distinguish on the battlefield pretty quickly what's what. The spawn-in time for the enemies also gives you a pretty good amount of readiness factor. You don't have anything jumping on top of you like the enemy introduction cutscenes in Bayonetta 1. The first rhythm game is technically dance aerobics on the NES, with the genre picking up in the late 90s with titles like Beatmania, Parappa the Rapper, Dance Dance Revolution, and others. In the aughts, we saw a slew of peripherals from maracas to guitars to bongos for a multitude of rhythm games. The first rhythm genre hybrid I'm aware of is Crypt of the Necrodancer, released in 2015. Necrodancer is a roguelike, but has some stylistic similarities that have been inherited into Hi-Fi Rush. Enemies will bob in time with the music, and the timing meter at the bottom is a predecessor of the optional meter in Rush. There was a fantastic shooter known as BPM, both beats per minute and bullets per minute, the actual name of the game, where you need to shoot and reload in time with the beat. Although in that game, the enemies don't quite sync up with the beat, and here in Hi-Fi Rush, they do. BPM can also be a little difficult to look at. I really recommend toning down the saturation if you're going to explore that one. There were a few more recent, there was a more recent kind of Doom-like rhythm boomer shooter that I haven't gotten around to yet. I haven't looked up the name. I'll have to put the name in the description later. Whatever. There. In 2020, they released a game called No Straight Roads, which was also attempting to hybridize rhythm with brawling. While NSR succeeds in designing characters and has a really fun aesthetic and dialogue, it fails as a brawler by having poor feedback on your moves. There's not a lot in the way of like hit stun, hit stop, enemy recoil. You don't have forward momentum on your swings. It's got some awkward timing in places, and the combo system is very shallow. You're really mashing a lot of buttons. Hi-Fi Rush succeeds on the brawler elements where NSR failed. But let's not drag them for trying. They came back and released a free update to their game about a year later that improved a number of their boss fights. Everything in the game environment reacts to the beat, giving you a plethora of cues to help sync up your inputs. In combat, you do more damage for inputs that are on rhythm. Outside of combat, platforming elements sync up with the beat as well, and you get feedback for any dashes or jumps that are input on beat. So you can continually train your timing while you move through the level, and good platforming just like creates a good rhythmic tune. It's really fun. I keep moving. There are rail travel sections too, like you're just zipping around on like a set path, but they've got obstacles that you're also dodging in sync with the beat, and the character throws in extra flourishes when you're doing it correctly, so you're always keeping up that flow. The game uses a comic book aesthetic. It's got dots shading used as trim for certain scenes and shots. I had to look this up. These are called Ben-Day dots. They're also used stylistically in some of the backgrounds in Into the Spider-Verse, as well as in the first opening intro for JoJo's Stone Ocean, which is also aping that kind of comic book style. We've got panel cut-ins, action lines on some of the character movements, and big onomatopoeia splashes that accompany the big moments and the finishing blows. Love of comics crosses the pond. This is developed in Japan, and some of the displayed sound effects are Japanese onomatopoeia straight out of a manga. Look at this dude. He's striking JoJo poses all the time. I was losing it in this chapter. He's even got the JoJo's do 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 do. It's so good. I can't comment on the licensed tracks that were picked up for the game because I've been playing on streaming mode, but the track of the first boss, which is a giant robot, is called Too Big to Fail. So it's hitting both it's a giant robot and we're talking like corporate irresponsibility. I don't want to spoil too much of the comedy. It's on point. Look at this. This robot is styled like a noir detective. He's in plain sight the first time you'll find him. I found him hidden in other levels. His dialogue is amazing. This guy is complaining that the work week was extended to 8 days, and 4 of them are Monday. This guy is complaining about difficult rhythm games. I'm not gonna give you spoilers about the arrows. You gotta play the game to find out about arrows. I'm still playing through the game, waiting to see if the main character will get more personally invested in the plot and the stakes. I love Chai's goofball attitude, but I won't get to see a dramatic conclusion to the game unless Chai goes through some kind of change. Peppermint has some background that's yet to be revealed. I might finish the playthrough before this video goes up, but I wanted to rush out this script while I was riding a wave of well-deserved hype. Is this a game for you? I don't know. Do you like brawlers? If so, then yes, it's a game for you. I've played a bunch of DDR, Beat Saber, Bayonetta, Necrodancer, Cadence of Hyrule. This was a game for me. John Johanas, thank you. He has to push the onomatopoeia out of the way. I'm dying here, man. He's on mute. He didn't unmute himself. This robot has hair. Wait, both of these robots have hair. Losing to himself in solo tic-tac-toe. More fight. Yes. So far, our characters are Peppermint and Chai. I wonder how many other characters will be expressed as possible flavors of tea